On this episode of Star Trek Universe, we are catching up on our lower decks with Starbase 80 and of Gods and Angles right after these words from our mystery sponsors.
What a great name. Welcome to Star Trek Universe, the podcast where you get to listen in on two lifelong friends sit and chat about Star Trek. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am drinking a diet soda. I'm David C. Robertson.
Come on, man. I know I jumped into the show fairly quickly, but
I know.
Drinking on the job immediately.
I know.
After we start.
I know. It's terrible.
Terrible.
I should be flogged.
So let's dive right in because we got two episodes to talk about. So Starbase 80. Good time, I felt like.
Yeah, I liked several things in this episode.
Yeah? Break it down, brother.
All right. Okay, so first of all, when they get to Starbase 80 and we see the vendors selling the TOS uniforms from dead officers.
Yeah.
It wasn't just TOS uniforms, because if you pause it, there are tons of, like, they have, like, security helmets from the movies. Uh-huh. They have, like, the Maroon Monster tunic, the Maroon Monster away team jacket. They have a motion picture uniform. Yeah. They have Strange New Worlds, Pike, and Number One uniforms. It was a lot. They had stuff that I could not catalog. I was like looking at it going like, I don't know what the hell that is.
That's so great.
But my favorite thing is behind the table full of shirts, they also had just piles and piles of TOS red shirts.
Oh, that's funny. That's really, really funny. Those are on clearance for sure.
Uh-huh. I liked seeing the NX-01 uniform again.
Oh, yeah.
I loved that the corridors of Starbase 80 were the original series Enterprise corridors. Like, very specifically. There's just, like, dirty versions of that.
Mm-hmm.
Nicole Bayer and Stephen Root, of course, are just wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, golly. That's who that was. Stephen Root. I heard his voice and knew it, but I could not, like, come up with it for some reason. I normally can because I love that guy, but for whatever reason, I was listening to it like, who is it? I know that voice.
Yeah. I loved the Harrison Horseberry character. I especially loved that he had the Tarchanin disease that Geordi got in TNG.
Yeah.
I have an action figure of that.
Nice.
It really did. It just felt like this was a backdoor pilot for a Starbase 80 show.
100%. And you said that about an episode, 2 episodes ago or something, where like they were on that resort planet, and you were like, I could totally see Mariner going to a resort planet or something. And this episode, I didn't know you were going to come in with that take, and I was going to be like, no, this is the backdoor pilot. Like Mariner, especially after Mariner realized how much she liked second chances, and she kind of liked Starbase 80 now, and I was like, I could totally see her finding out at the end of the show that like this Starbase 80 has an opening for for her to come in and replace, and could totally be on Starbase 80.
Well, my thing was Tawny Newsome, who plays Mariner, is developing a Star Trek comedy live action that's supposedly set at a resort.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was going for.
I forgot that it was set at a resort, but yeah, that's okay. Yeah. That makes sense. I've been looking for her, what she's going to do next. Like if it's the character of Mariner, where's she going to end up? And this seemed like a totally good fit for that. I really liked that they had a I forgot, I didn't write the name down, but the name of the alien race that had half of the ship or half of the station.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that was the
Acamerians.
Yeah, the Acamerians. They're from TNG's The Vengeance Factor.
Yeah, I just thought that was really funny. Definitely a reference to the Bajorans.
Uh-huh.
And it's pretty fun.
Well, or the Cardassians, depending on what part of the timeline you want to go to.
Well,
they definitely look more.
No. I mean the fact that they have half the station, like that was the thing. The Bajorans and Federation split the station, and so I thought that was the treaty that allowed them both to have. Yeah. I think that was a specific reference to that. Which was fun because if like they did a spinoff of Starbase 80, you'd have that same dynamic of a different group of people on the station, and that's one of the fun things about DS9 is how complex those relationships get because you don't travel. And I love Deep Space Nine is my favorite show, partially because they don't travel every week, so you have to deal with the same groups of people over and over and over. Yeah,
but yeah, wouldn't it be great if all the mentions of Starbase 80 that made us go, "What the hell?"
Yeah,
is just a setup for a show that they've been slowly pitching us.
Yeah. And it would be, I mean, I know you would love to see all those corridors and those panels in live action again.
Yeah, I don't even need to be live action. It could just be a cartoon as well. Like, but you know what? I did notice that the dude that Stephen Root was playing looks like Stephen Root. So
yeah,
I'm down. Dude, I love Stephen Root.
Me too. Oh man,
I'll watch Stephen Root do anything.
Yeah.
I'm sure Zombie Tindy lavishly licking Mariner's arm is going to be like, it's just going to open whole new doors for the Slash fans.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay. But I was like, there's no way they didn't know what they were doing there.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the other scene that, we'll probably get some play in that community is the gel scene.
Yeah.
I love the gel scene. Ransom shouting out how much he loves the gel and be like, I like to lay it on thick.
Did you notice throughout the episode he's putting it on like lip balm?
Yeah,
he's like
yeah. When the guy gets stuck in the tube, he's like, I got a little gel to help you out with that.
Yeah.
At one point, they walk into a room and they're like, what is that terrible smell? He's like, all I smell is gel. It's a good running gag.
I thought so much that they were going to that was a red herring because I thought it was definitely going to be like contaminated decontamination gel.
I did too. When we found out it was only the crew of the Cerritos that was getting sick, and I thought still maybe the combat is like the static activated it or something, but I thought it was going to be a gel related disease halfway through the episode.
Oh, definitely.
But it was not. It was a red herring. Instead, it took it back to cetacean ops, which was weird because they did just show those guys at the beginning of the episode. Have we? Yeah, it's funny.
We've said it. We've definitely seen them. Yeah, and I forgot that part. They showed it early enough, and then they went into the plot, and I just totally forgot that they showed those whales getting electrocuted.
Yeah. Well, they said it. They never moved again after being electrocuted, which I guess the point would have been at that point they would have been zombies, so they didn't want to show it that early. But I thought they were dead, or somebody check on them. Those are crew members. They got shocked and went limp, and they closed the window and they were just like, we've got to go over there anyway. We just have to go over there and see what's going on. Or they didn't act like it was a big deal. It's this is some real humanoid centric kind of thinking here.
Yeah, I agree. So I find it fascinating that apparently the Romulans have their own version of Space Invaders where you shoot at Constitution class ships.
That's great. That's really great.
I loved the arcade, dude. I love that arcade. The arcade had so much really weird stuff in it. There was a game called Ferengi Fortune that had a Ferengi head on the top of it.
I saw that.
Obviously the Romulan games with the Bird of Prey versus the Constitution class. There was one called Cardboard Chaos, and the fighters were Flames versus Cardboard Box.
That just feels like something that's like a phone game now.
It does. But it also reminded me of Clay Fighter from back in the day. You remember that?
No.
On SNES?
I do not.
They were they look like little stop motion characters. It was called Clay Fighter. They had one called the Captain's Chair that was literally a huge screen in a captain's chair.
Nice.
But my favorite,
and
you could barely see it in 2 shots behind Stephen Root, there was a koala game.
Oh, nice.
I couldn't read the name. There was some kind of name, but it was a big blue koala head.
That's awesome.
And I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
My shackles to read that name. I do. Like, I treat that koala like it's like a mystery of the universe. Like, it feels like when I come across some kind of like bizarre conspiracy theory or like a really like well written supernatural podcast with like this really well researched and doesn't have like an ending to it, doesn't have like a definable explanation for why whatever weird bullshit that could happen. I have a certain feeling in my stomach, like, oh god, like that's so weird. I had the same feeling about the koala in the Star Trek universe.
Yeah, that's funny, man.
Like, I'm so like, the Star Trek universe is so my home in a way that like I even feel their supernatural entities.
Yeah, that's that is just a difference between me and you, though. I don't get very freaked out by those kinds of supernatural podcasts. I mean, I'm like, if I'm alone in the dark and something's going, I might be a little like, ooh, spooky, spine chilling.
Oh, I only listen to them when I'm like jogging at 3 a.m.
Oh, that's smart.
That's the only way it makes me feel, Matt.
Okay. the only way you ever feel.
Well, that's not true.
I'm just teasing.
That's not true.
Gotta chase that dragon.
I know, man. I know.
Oh, man.
Had to give up all my vices. Getting too old.
Well, yeah, great episode. I really liked the food vendors. I really liked, I think it was Chad at the end. Like, Chad will live to dog another day. Whatever.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot. I liked everyone licking everything and then being like, oh, that's the energy being's fingers reaching out their fingers and their tongues.
I was surprised at how easily, or how easy it was for the Cerritos to be set to self-destruct.
Yeah, that was like, really silly.
Previously, we've seen like there has to be a captain and a first officer, or like 4 or 5 main crew members doing something. Jesus Christ, this guy like tongued it.
Yeah, over and over again, just toggling it on and off. Yeah, it's really silly. Doesn't not make a lot of sense, but I like it.
I mean, they could set it to be like something really simple if they wanted to, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. So yeah, I really like the doctor after just beating the dolphin or the whale with the net, saying, how did you do it? Complicated doctor stuff.
Yeah.
He was really good.
Yeah, that was funny.
I liked when they flipped the gravity. The gravity flip thing was funny, although it didn't make a lot of sense. But I liked when they flipped it, how one of the consoles wasn't bolted in. And just like flipped and smashed and almost killed everyone.
Well, that was a thing they did in Enterprise, though. That was a reference to Enterprise.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the first episode. Like, Travis Mayweather has a part of the ship that he likes to go to because the gravity is off.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the idea of having, like, one room and being able to navigate it, and also, like, why all the consoles are up on the roof, you know what I mean? It's not like just it's not just the gravity. They had to, like, reroute the entire room around the fact that the gravity was wrong. It's a little silly, but...
Probably.
I like it. I feel like, and we can get into the next episode with this, but like, I feel like this episode and the next episode is really showing like some deliberate ties between like Mariner's character growth and where she's going. Like, she starts the episode talking about how she's really enjoying the missions and like things are really changing for her. And then with the next episode, she sort of like becomes a mentor for another, person like herself that like has similar pushback against authority,
Yeah.
I thought that was so I think we're seeing where her character's like end result is going to be, and I think it's like helping other, I don't know, at least in this episode, this episode 6 with the orbs and the cubes.
Oh, we're already hitting that. Okay.
I mean, if you're ready, I was saying.
Well, I mean, Stu had some feedback for Starbase 80.
Okay, go for it. Let's hear it.
This is for Starbase 80. He says, what a horrible night for a curse. Hey, so the fact that cetaceans were subtitled implies not only that the universal translators are doing their selective thing again, but also that everyone on the bridge knows how to speak dolphin. They could have at least put the subtitles on the view screen, not a window, to suggest otherwise. I'm all right, Matt. I'm all right with Matt. It's like people listening to Groot, you know? It's fine. Starbase 80, that sounds familiar. Oh, wait, they've mentioned it 29 times this season. I love subtle foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm.
Who's voicing Gene? Stephen Root? Kavada! Note, this is a multi-layered reference beginning with the fact that Stephen Root previously portrayed the Klingon Kavada in Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 5, Episodes Unification 1 and Unification 2, and also a meta-reference to my email last week titled Bajus Slap, which where I referenced Star Trek Lower Decks episode The Best Exotic Nanite Hotel guest voice actor Toby Huss being the voice of Khan, the neighbor of Hank and King of the Hill, and to Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, the 1982 motion picture entry in the Star Trek franchise, which features a scene where lead character James T. Kirk, portrayed by Canadian actor William Shatner, dramatically exclaims the name of the film's primary antagonist, Khan, Noonien Singh, which, despite being spelled differently, has an identical pronunciation. The relevance to the email being that Stephen Root was also a voice actor in King of the Hill, where he portrayed the character Bill, and the fact that Kavada, like Khan is a name beginning with K, which features a vowel sound. I'm not doing this anymore, Stu. That's the last time.
The first bit of context we needed. We don't need going into like William T. Kirk as the captain. That's just being an asshole.
William Shatner being Kirk.
Yeah.
So, I remembered that he was Kavada in Unification.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, cool, he's back. Stu says, who's voicing the chain welding Akamarian? Stephen Root. Gene! Note, this is a reference to my previous note. No, you tricked me, but I won't do it again. Stu says, I would ask how the self-destruct sequence was authorized without the captain or the first officer's input, but whatever. Livik. All right. Wait, if the cetaceans are whales, then why do they speak dolphin and not in whale song? I've wondered. Fun episode, though you do have to just go with the premise that Starfleet would let a major base go to seed like that, as well as the notion that could happen just naturally without some special factor, though I suppose the Akamarians owning half of it was kind of supposed to be that. Pretty funny to have an Elorian who is purposely not like any other Elorian in being so young, but also still having level-headed Elorian wisdom and such. Kind of surprised that she and Mariner didn't have any pre-existing relationship from when she was stationed there, though. Episode felt kind of light on Rutherford and Tendi, and even Boimler to an extent, though, and with this being the final season, I should think there'd be more focus on them as a tight-knit unit. No arc plot stuff either, but there's still time. All right. Thank you, Stu.
Yeah.
And I agree with some of that, but I really loved the episode.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I mean, it's Lower Decks. There's a little logical inconsistencies, but like, I just don't worry about it. They have beaten me into submission with that, which I guess is a okay place to be.
Yeah. And as for there not being enough Tendi, her licking Mariner's arm was all I needed. All right. Gods and Angles.
Yes,
of Gods and Angles.
Of Gods and Angles. It's such a good name. Good Lord.
Yeah.
It's so good. So the orbs and the cubes fighting, and the sort of the demigod being the little subplot there. Yeah, a good episode. It was very telegraphed, the idea that the two that this was the Okana freaking episode.
Yes, it was the Okana, and also like this has been such a thing. Like I remember like episodes like this in the Heat of the Night and All in the Family. Like this is old stuff.
Yes. So I was not surprised by the revelation at the end that there was an orb and a cube together. I mean, I think they kind of hinted at that pretty early. As soon as you found out two of them were missing, I was like, oh, well, that's the answer to that.
Right.
But
as soon as one of them were missing, I was like, is there like a daughter, a sphere daughter?
I gotta say, I watched this one twice, and I watched them both twice, and on the rewatch, that room that is like flipped over and broken, and there's photonic stuff all over the wall. It looks a lot different once you realize that it's a lover's thing instead of a like that stain on the wall. Is like,
Oh, as soon as like I saw it, I was like, "Girl, that's calm."
Oh yeah, I did not the first time, but at that point they hadn't mentioned the girl missing as well, or like the orb missing as well.
Yeah, they hadn't mentioned it, but just one of them was missing, and then they went to the room, and like it was like that, and I saw that on the wall. I looked at Bethany, and I went, "Girl, that's calm."
Yeah, I almost feel like they couldn't have gotten away with that scene if you'd known.
Oh yeah,
if it was known that was a sex room instead of a like trashed room, they couldn't have like put that on screen. Like it would have been too far. But since we thought at the time it was I feel like they kind of snuck that in there. It's very funny.
Yeah,
photonic residue on the wall.
I do love that this was all a backdrop for bringing in this Ollie character though.
Oh yeah, you like Ollie?
I do, because she's like you were saying, she's Mariner. Season 1.
Kinda.
Even her like speech about loving the brig. I love the brig.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
She's like, yeah.
And it really highlights the distance that Mariner's moved and the character development she's had. And I think combining that with the previous episode, it really is a good couple episodes for Mariner's development. But I also found it cool that like she assumed that this girl was just like her and she was kind of treating her just like her, but then she found out about the lies and the way she was feeling scared of being caught and all that stuff, and then she was like, oh, I was assuming you were just like me, and I still care about you because you're an officer that's like, you know, having it challenging time fitting in the Federation, but I also realize you're not just exactly like me. I can't think that all of my students in the future, all people that are under me, it's like it was a nice lesson to learn, to realize she's a lot like me, but she's not me, you know?
Yeah, that was nice. I really also just love that they tried to continue like the idea, like this is an idea that Peter David did in the New Frontier books, by the way. Like he had an officer on, God, I can't remember the damn ship's name. He had an officer in there who was a son of Apollo or something. And I like the lineage of Zeus and Apollo. Yeah, I love that. That it just feels very comic booky. I do kind of like wonder if they conflated Who Mourns for Adonis and Plato's stepchildren a little bit, because like in Who Mourns for Adonis, they never met Zeus or any of the other gods, but that was like he did like spread himself thin upon the wind and dissipate. So, you know, I don't know, like I don't know if they're confusing a couple episodes or, you know, putting them together. I don't know what they're doing, but whatever. I know in the comics they met Zeus, so
yeah, interesting.
I don't know if that's what they're referencing. Who knows? They reference extended media quite a bit as well. So.
Yeah, for sure.
My favorite joke though this whole episode is that everyone was wise to Boimler using that alternate universe pad.
Me too. Everybody knew,
but everyone knew it was a different pad because of the thicker bevel level and not because it's red.
Well, and that was just specifically Tindy and Rutherford, which like makes sense for those two. But it was also just really funny that Boimler is so see-through in his actions. I really liked there's a line where Tindy asks, "What's wrong with Boimler?" And Rutherford just says, "Just the normal stuff." Yep. Because it's so true. It's like Boimler being a like trying to copy someone else's life instead of living his own, being uncomfortable with himself, being like being a try-hard, basically. Like that's just all Boimler's problems rolled into one episode. And Rutherford's just like, just the normal stuff. The details don't matter.
I love that by the end, though, like he convinces Rutherford it's a good idea, and Rutherford's like, "Yay, we're gonna do it!"
It's very, very funny. Staying true to ourselves is wrong. Staying true to yourself is wrong. Got to copy someone better. But I think we discussed this in a previous episode. You were like, "Yeah, no, it's gonna work," and I was like, "No, I think the point is gonna be." Eventually, he's going to have to be true to himself. He's going to have to figure it out, which I still hold to that. But it was really funny. This episode ended with those two like bouncing out of the room.
Yeah, like I suspect that, you know, like I said, I suspect it's going to be that like yeah, you need to stay true to yourself. Blah. But then they really could just make it a joke and be like, well, I did stay true to myself. That's not how it's supposed to work. Yeah, but I did stay true to, they could subvert it, and I hope they do. I always hope for the subversion in comedy shows.
For sure. Another thing about a second viewing of this episode, I am really not on board with, is it Ali? You said the demigod's name?
Yeah.
I was not on board with them bringing Ali into the fold at the end. I understand the concept of Mariner stepping, but there was basically a murder case on, right? They're searching to find out what happened to this thing, and she lied so much. On a rewatch, almost every line out of her mouth is misdirection or blaming someone and saying well, it clearly wasn't one of us. She's constantly trying to throw us off the case. That's more of a month in a brig, kind of a situation. I feel like this was not a night in the brig, and now you're going to be trusted by the crew situation. I did not think that was realistic at all for how much she went wild, trying to lie.
Yeah, maybe, but also I could totally see Mariner talking to her mom about it and being like, please give her a chance, X, Y, Z, here are all these reasons.
There's a reason she's not the captain of a bigger ship.
Right.
She makes bad decisions.
Right. Absolutely.
I really liked when she said at the very beginning, our first meeting of Ali talking to Ransom, and she stacked all those things. She's like, "Don't worry, I did it. I could do this." She's like, "It wasn't a challenge; it was an order." I really also liked, "I can't make gains without my bells."
Yep, that was good too.
So good. Oh man,
that was good too. By the way, I feel like I forgot to mention to Stu for that last episode. Federation would totally let a Starbase go to seed, man. Totally. It's just especially if you go by the movies, they're just a big bureaucracy. They just let shit go to pot all the time.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think that's definitely true, but I also think the times seem to change, and at this point in the history of the world, you'd think, I don't know, replicator technology is advanced. They now have industrial replicators all over the place, and it just seems like the world is the lack of scarcity and the well trained officers everywhere. I found it weird that the chief engineer couldn't fix those problems that the captain fixed in 2 seconds. It was there's some weirdnesses to that whole thing, but overall, I agree with you. I think and depending on what they're trying to say about this time in the timeline, the Mars attack hasn't happened yet, but we're nearing that era, you know what I mean? Where there's this big retraction of the Federation pulling back and becoming more protectionist and less, less giving to its worlds.
Right.
And then we know that happens even more after the burn, 10,000 years later or whatever, but what is it?
Right.
8,000 years later? I forget.
Well, we're not talking about the burn right now, but
no, but I mean, there's time periods where the Federation becomes more and less good at taking care of its citizens.
But even if you go back to the original series, they're pretty awful.
Yeah, sure.
They're pretty terrible. They've always got some high official who's we can't give that to those people. We have to go do this.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. A bureaucratic mentality. I wasn't a big fan of this episode. I liked Ollie enough and, enjoyed the episode overall and liked what it was trying to show for Mariner's character and the lesson that it was trying to teach Mariner. But, and I love the little snippet of Boimler's shit that we got.
Yeah.
But
I really liked
it. It wasn't a great episode.
Yeah. I thought it was fine. Serviceable. I really liked Somebody Doesn't Skip Radius Day, talking to the the naked orb. I really liked oh no, the orbs and the cubes, they're combining. They could be anything. Nope, it's just a bigger orb and cube. They're not creative at all.
Yeah.
I really liked that a lot.
I did like that.
And then I also really liked leaving a mess is part of our kink. The crew's like, we had to touch all of that.
The baby's name was Squarin. That made me laugh.
Yeah, what's the Aaron part? What's the like round, square round? Is that what I didn't get it. Squarin.
Yeah, I thought it was like a play on around, but
square round.
Maybe I'm dumb.
No, you may be right.
Squarin?
Squarin? I don't know. I didn't get it.
All right.
I mean, like, it's like Aaron, but with square at the front is what it seemed like to me. But there's no round in there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what
it was close to round.
It is. So that's I didn't like the squaring thing because I thought it should be a combination of the two, but I didn't understand why the Aaron part was. But I might just have missed something.
I mean, I might have missed just created a punchline in my head that wasn't there. I don't know.
No, it seemed like something, but I didn't get it. What was Stu? You said we have Stu feedback for this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stu's pretty smart.
Yeah, maybe he understands squaring.
Maybe he understands it, yeah. All right, so he didn't have a title for this email, and I don't understand.
What?
Because, whatever.
He has great titles.
Hey, he does. Stu says, hey, the cold open had me thinking this was going to be a Ransom POV episode, and why not? I think it's Stu. Oh, yes. I forgot about this entirely. Ronald B. Moore, we're referencing Joe Piscopo's character from The Outrageous Icona now? They're actively referencing the Outrageous Icona.
Oh.
So they clearly know what they're doing.
Ronald B. Moore was a character on the Outrageous Icona?
All right, so Ronald D. Moore is a writer.
Right, I know
Ronald
that.
B. Moore is a VFX supervisor on TNG. But there was a character named Ronald B. Moore, played by Joe Piscopo. He was the comedian that Data called up in the Outrageous Icona to learn how to tell a joke.
Okay.
That's why he was like, oh, you're a regular Ronald B. Moore.
Okay, that's pretty weird and funny.
I forgot about that. Stu says that might be a deeper cut than Enterprise Bij, and yes, I am aware it's also the name of a Star Trek VFX guy. I mean, I didn't think you didn't know, Stu.
I don't know.
Matt didn't know.
I don't know.
Stu says it has always kind of bugged me how much Starfleet is willing to bend over backwards to accommodate species who are being difficult assholes. Why would you even want someone who behaved like that in the Federation? There should be more stories about civilizations being assessed and then rejected because something is found out about them that disqualifies them. There's an episode of Stargate SG-1 with Renee Auberjonois guest starring that basically does just that. I think because Starfleet and the Federation knows that to get to the place where you should be in the Federation, there's going to be a lot of hiccups, and it's a long road getting from there to here. Mm-hmm. It takes a long time.
Mm-hmm.
100%. But for some people, their time is finally here.
Yeah.
Starfleet wants to help their dream come alive. I'm not going to keep doing this. Anyway, so... if you look back, the Tellarites, the Andorians, the humans, and the Vulcans, when they formed the Federation, most of them were assholes.
Right. We're all assholes in our own way, but no one's 100% a dick.
Right. Stu continues, if the Shape kids are missing because they're doing the star-crossed lovers trope, this episode is an automatic 2.5 out of 5, regardless of anything else. I agree, Stu. I hate that trope so much. It's almost as bad as I lied to protect you.
Yeah, not a great trope.
Jason's catching up on Superman and Lois, and he's like, man, the I lied to protect you trope is really heavy here. And I was like, yes, but everything else is so much better than the rest of the CW. I was like, bad VFX, acting, directing... really makes the I lied to protect you pop. I don't mind it nearly as much as Superman and Lois.
Yeah. Well, and there's times where it's written like so tropes are tropes for a reason, and like it both exists for a reason and they're despised for a reason. And sometimes they can exist in a way that is not worthy of being despised. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes someone lies to protect someone Like, and you can think that's immoral, you can think that's wrong, but you can understand why they do it. And other times it's like,
right.
oh, they just did this to make their drama between these two characters, and it's
Right.
not a real reason to lie to someone, or there's a logical inconsistency in the lie, or whatever. Like, oh no, you lying to them caused them much greater danger. You know, like there's all this, and like you're lying to them about the danger doesn't really change the danger level. You're just not making them aware of it, and you're just kind of putting them in danger without their consent. There's all these like reasons that trope can fall on its face, but it can also be a real thing a real character would choose, you know?
Yeah, and that's what I was telling him. I was like, all the instances I remember from that show, I was like, that all checks out. Like, no, they lied to protect them, and they were right.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, you were little kids. You didn't need to know your dad was fucking Superman. There's no way you should know that right now.
Right, well, and there's also, like, you can lie to protect someone and be wrong, and it still be a fair character choice, you know.
Since those kids learned that their dad is Superman, they got into so much bullshit because of it. Like every episode, those parents are like yelling at them, going like, "What the fuck were you thinking?" And they're like, "I don't know, Dad's Superman." You should not have known.
Yeah,
you should not
have known.
It's so funny
you mentioned that. I didn't know anything about that show, Superman and Lois.
Yeah,
you've told me it's pretty good, and so I've been thinking about checking it out eventually.
Yeah,
it just hasn't been on my to-do list. But I had no idea there were kids involved. But then just today, I saw, when I was researching MCU news for our MCU cast today, I like stumbled upon an article about the kids in Superman Lois, and I was like, oh, there's kids. It's just funny that you mentioned it, because I literally just found out that like an hour ago.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, absolutely. They're teenagers.
And, I saw a picture. I was like, what? Have there been kids the whole time?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah, it's like the premise of the show is there's like, like, oh no, Clark loses his job at the Daily Planet, and they're just like, and his mom dies. He's like, I got to go take care of the farm. Maybe we should take the kids back to Kansas, and they go back and live in Smallville. And it's like, I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's one of the best Superman things ever.
Cool.
Like it takes appropriate things from Smallville. It's like they're fans of all of it. They're clearly the writers are fans of all of it. They put a lot. It's got like 4 times the budget of any of the other CW shows, and it was co-financed by HBO Max.
Well, it's already a Superman show, so it's already like hitting the ground running with like the biggest character they've got in their arsenal. So.
Mm-hmm. It's just a solid show. It's way less about Superman than like the family dynamic and stuff.
Cool. Okay, what else do you have to say?
All right, sorry. All this cursing makes me miss that short window where we had full-blown swears in new Star Trek. Remember, it is fucking cool from Discovery. You can allude to holodeck waste receptacles being filled with cum, but you can't have a character say shit, do better, or worse, whichever is more apt. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
I mean, like, I mean, as a parent myself, I don't care about cursing in shows. Like, I just don't care. I don't really care if my kid curses. But I do want her to understand like the logic of when it's appropriate and when it's not. And so, like, I don't know. I know there are parents who really care about that, and I do want Star Trek to be able to be accessible for all ages, But and I guess especially Lower Decks seems like a show that kids will watch, and so you want to be appropriate enough. But Discovery Discovery is like one of the most least kid friendly shows I guess Star Trek has done. I'm trying to think if there's a worse one, but like just like the dead Klingon baby heads at the end of the first season really I was like, oh, that's not I couldn't show this to a kid.
Yeah,
that was one of those
I
lines.
don't care.
Yeah,
like as long as you are doing something for kids and getting them into the universe, I'm fine with it. But like it's not. I remember people throwing fits online over Star Trek First Contact having PG-13 rating, and I'm just going, Jesus Christ. Like, it's okay. Like, I don't care. Make it R-rated. Game of Thrones, that shit. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
Yeah. I mean,
Klingon baby heads.
Obviously, I'm down with it, but I understand the need for both, is what I'm guessing. Getting at. Like, so I understand the reason you'd choose this show to be cleaner. Let me just make it clear. I know the Klingon baby heads were fake.
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear. I know that. No need to write in, Stu.
It's good to know that. Yeah. Stu continues, wait, it's just a bigger orb with a bigger cube. They aren't creative at all. So he agrees, I guess, with us on that. But then the next point is, in all caps, 2.5. No exceptions. He finishes up with saying, look, I know this show runs on doing familiar conventions from Star Trek, but if you don't subvert them, you're just doing predictable retreads. I agree. Regardless of if you dress it up with funny, stupid cube or orb aliens. They even reference the outrageous Okana, which is an episode whose central plot ended up being about star-crossed lovers. The Boimler to Anna thing was fine, but I've talked before about how I think Boimler should be past the point now where he has to regress to panicking about something like this and acting dumb and being butt-monkeyed about it. Okay. In this case, being a lightning bolt up his ass. Is Jack Quaid requesting this? Does he have a humiliation fetish? I assume you saw the recent season of The Boys and the Tech Night episode. Yes, I did.
Yes.
Not much to say about the demigod subplot. It felt more like they just referenced this thing. Well, this was a thing in old Star Trek more than actually do anything particularly novel with it. Funny you said novel, since there was a Son of Apollo in the New Frontier books. For the love of God, give Rutherford an A plot this season already.
Yes.
All right, Stu. I got you.
Yeah.
I feel you.
I feel you too. I'm torn on the whole. Like, I forever have been thinking how, like, so many of these episodes end in a trite way. And I just have, kind of like I said earlier, I've been beaten into submission by the little logical inconsistencies or like the way it's not realistic or whatever. Mm-hmm. It still bothers me. I just like let it go, I guess. And I feel the same way about this. Like, I have forever been like, oh, you could have done something clever with this. Or ballsy or like interesting with this story you've concocted, but you decided to just go with like the way it ended on Next Generation or the way it ended on whatever. Yeah. And I'm always kind of like, that's a little annoying. But it is that is the show that it is. I mean, like, this show is not trying to, as much as it apes Rick and Morty's style and humor at times. This is not Rick and Morty. This is not trying to challenge the convention of the thing. It is the convention of the thing with that humor style, like, slathered on top, like Ransom Jill.
Yeah. I don't even think it really apes the humor of it. Rick and Morty is so existentialist.
Well, I agree. That's what I'm talking about. Like, Rick and Morty, the surface humor is very similar to this. The style, the tone, the kinds of jokes, the kind of rapid fire jokes they throw at you, but then like the sort of like substrate of the plot of a Rick and Morty episode is often like really existential and interesting and like goes to a place. Now, sometimes the little jokes are too. Don't get me wrong. Often the jokes are like the freaking butter or whatever. But see, that's the kind of, I think that butter joke is the kind of joke that they would make on Lower Decks. It's just like, they never want to go they never want to like really challenge the characters or the sort of patterns that Star Trek has presented to us, the sorts of plots and ideas that Star Trek, they're not looking to blaze new trails. They're looking to like build kind of fun characters and make us laugh on the way and reference lots of Star Trek. It's fun, but it's not like, it doesn't feed my soul in the way that some shows do.
Right. I think there's obvious similarities between Lower Decks and Rick and Morty. I mean, Mike McMahon was like the head writer or whatever on Rick and Morty in the first season and kind of helped to create what that show became. So obviously there's something there, but I think it's a problem that they came up with in the 24th century shows back in the day is that like Star Trek is a very specific thing and you can't really dig too deeply into certain areas. You can't get as existential. You can't really explore certain things because the show has to, at the end of the day, be about optimism and about like the triumph of the human condition and you have hope.
That's why I love In the Pale Moonlight. Like that's why I love that episode because it subverts that and goes there. I don't think
I agree.
And in more recently in that war episode on Strange New Worlds, like those are some of my favorite episodes because they go there. It's like you still have the optimistic future, but the humans are still human and they do screwed up stuff sometimes. And like they make decisions that are human. I won't even say bad decisions. They're making decisions based on their set of principles and things that they could choose, the options they have in front of them, and they have to choose the one that makes most sense to them, and it's not always the most clean, optimistic, future-based decision. Right. So even some of your best and lovable characters can sometimes be monsters.
For Star Trek, you can only do that every so often because, you know, when they did like a whole season of that in Star Trek Discovery, all the Star Trek fans are crying like evangelicals whining about how dirty Song of Solomon is. Like, you just can't do it. You just gotta be like, well, okay.
I hear you. I do. And I think that's true. Well, and the thing is, I've talked about this a lot on a MCU cast and Multiverse News and stuff. Something I've been really, talking about about superhero media is the idea that once the boys exist, I kind of feel like we're on a cultural countdown to the end of superhero media being the pop culture narrative, being the main thing. And I don't know if you've heard me make this argument before, but like
probably not.
Basically, the argument being like cowboys were the narrative for a long time. Part of the thing that makes cowboys popular in the olden days is the fact that they just had, and this is not my language, savage peoples around them that they could just kill. And
they were the bearers of the moral imperative.
Exactly. And so their moral imperative is just to survive nature and these other people that are out there that aren't morally valuable. Once that comes into contact with reality and you learn the plight of the Native Americans in this country, you can't write those kinds of stories anymore. You can still have cowboys, but you kind of have to deal with all of this stuff. And once you start questioning superheroes as to how they would reflect in the real world, the boys start showing you like what a superhero would actually look like, how terrifying it would be, like the kinds of corruption that come with unlimited power. It starts to be hard to look at your other superhero media and go, ooh, that's actually a really dark thing he just did. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, like we always root for Superman, but like, ooh, like he has a little too much power, and you start questioning all. It causes this the stuff that the house that the whole franchises are built on to be questioned. And I think that like that's kind of that for Star Trek. Like the thing you're talking about, the questioning of the future and the optimistic future and how it all falls apart, I think is, and that's a bold thing about Discovery, and I really appreciated it, but especially given our current like world and the sort of wild swings we're having back and forth in politics and stuff. I say wild swings, the wild swings of 1% that we're having in our politics that's causing major upheaval in our government. I think the version of reality that Discovery displays is more realistic. You know, like it is how the world works. It is like you have to fight for the changes that you see in the world. The good things and the bad things are fought for. And so the optimistic idea of the future is cool, and I want it, but we have to fight for it every time. The ideals are things we have to choose to believe in and fight for. And so, yeah, I like these where they show the darker stories, and I like when those darker stories. The one thing I would love to see, though, I'd love to see the dark stories be told and be amazing like they are, like in the Pale Moonlight or the war episode with Mbinga. But like, my friends don't remember the name of that episode. I need to
Under the Cloak of War.
Under the Cloak of War. Thank you. I know it had a war in the title. But I would love to see those episodes happen. But then you see the negative effects, and I think we will. Yeah. I think we will with Strange New Worlds. I think that in the Pale Moonlight, sort of, he never has a negative impact from that episode. Maybe in his soul, but we don't see it after that episode. It's like he takes that shot. He deletes that log, and that never shows in his character. I feel like later. I'd like to see Mbinga like have maybe not regret, but consequences, or I don't know, in his soul at least, because I think that's important. I think when you go to the dark side and do the dark thing, you got to have something stick to you, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Absolutely.
This got a little more philosophical than I meant to about a Lord X episode.
It's all right.
But I think you're dead on when you say that, like, these episodes, these episodes that go to the dark side can't happen too often, or it starts to like feel like, oh, the whole thing's shaky. What are we looking at here? What is this hopeful future? Is it hopeful, really? Yeah.
I mean, I do think that, like, you're right. Those characters have to fight for the utopia that they live in.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, you know, Star Trek has always bucked the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It has always been like MASH in that way, where they're always, you know, shitting on the Army and like, oh, we got to have this in triplicate because the Army is, you know, inefficient.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, we've got a colonel coming in. There's no telling what kind of bullshit he'll do for a couple of weeks.
Right.
You know, so Star Trek has always done that. And, you know, especially with, like, going back with Effie over our rewatches, this is so evident how much Gene L. Kuhn was really against, like, military and colonialism and all, and like Gene Roddenberry was the one that's going like, hey, we need to be more like, look at this, like, this is a utopia, like, look at how great these guys are. And Gene L. Kuhn's like, sure. So anyway, Kirk goes against the admiral.
Yeah, that's great. That's really interesting. It's really interesting to see the patterns between the different writers.
Oh yeah, and like, with such a resource like Memory Alpha, you can go in and be like, okay, so this person wrote it, and then there was 3 other drafts, and then the final was by Gene L. Kuhn.
Mm-hmm.
And you can, like, you have a history where you could, like, track it down and go like, oh, this is where this element came into play and this element came into play. And
do you find those episodes as a whole being really memorable ones, similar to how we remember Under the Cloak of War or In the Pale Moonlight?
Yes and no. You know, sometimes the premise itself is weak, and they're just trying to crank it out. They had like 30 episodes a season. It was crazy, but
that is crazy.
There are elements of it. Like, Kirk is much more of a I'm a soldier, not a diplomat type with the Gene L. Kuhn episodes. Like with the Apollo episode, you know, he's very like, we don't need a god. We don't need to worship you. We don't want you. We are good on our own. We will not worship you. He fought back against Apollo. And then as like Apollo was weeping and saying like, it's true, they don't want us anymore. You were right, Hermes, or whoever, you know, and he like, as he dissipates on the wind because there's no more need for him, Kirk kind of like pulls back a little bit and is regretful and says, you know, they were around during the, you know, these old times, you know, maybe we could have learned a lot from him. Maybe it would have killed us to bring maybe a couple of laurel leaves. Like, I may have hit that too hard. Maybe try to be diplomatic and say, hey man, look, it's different now, but still love to pick your brain, you know? Like,
yeah. Show that he has some value. It went a little too far. I made the god sad.
Right. I made the god basically kill himself and or dissipate upon the wind.
Yeah.
Into an ethereal form. But yeah, there's usually some introspection, and you know, it goes back and forth. That's not like 100% wonderful or
anything, sure. You know, it's really interesting to hear you talk about this. I feel like we should on the cast do like a full watch of the original series.
You son of a bitch. And I want to pull back because I do love your mom. So, you asshole. How's that?
That's fine. I'm good with it.
No. Yeah. So anyway, Effie and I are doing a full rewatch of the original series. So we're in the middle of season 2.
Yeah, that's pretty far in, man. Wow.
On this channel.
Yep. I'm just teasing. I know. All right.
Yeah.
Well, was it that was all the feedback, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Well,
that's it. We're done. We good.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll be back here on Star Trek UCast. Hopefully earlier this next week. We
maybe it is Thanksgiving.
Oh
this
yeah,
week.
that's true. It is Thanksgiving, so we'll see. We'll see what we can pull off.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be home.
And what kind of hats we have.
Yeah, I don't know that I have any hats or rabbits.
You're wearing a hat.
Yeah, but that's not like one of those magic hats where like a rabbit can fuck off inside of for a minute. Like this is just a normal Batman hat.
Oh man, I was at a party this weekend, and the birthday girl, my good friend,
okay,
changed into her like we were all dressed for this. We were all dressed up, and toward the end of the night, some of the people who were staying there all changed into like pajamas, and she had like a green set of like a green jumper, like full body jumper, and she was wearing a hat, and it had some gold like leaf like accents on it. And immediately when she walked out, I felt so bad because she's a birthday girl, and she had this like costume which was like pretty cute, and like she's trying to be like, hey, look at my costume, it's cool. But as soon as she walked out, she looked so much, because of the way the hat was being worn, and she had tennis shoes on, she looked so much like Ray Gunn, that Olympic break dancer that got picked on the internet so hard. And like as I said it out, I didn't even take a second to think if it would be insulting. I don't think she was that insulted, but it was just very funny. I was like, hey, you look just like Ray Gunn, that break dancer. And then the entire party was like, oh my gosh, like she didn't mean to, and that's what made it funny. Yeah, she didn't mean to look like the break dancer, but she just. Have you seen You Should Probably Leave, the Tim Robinson show? I don't know if I'm saying it right.
No. I don't even know why I hesitated, because I know I haven't.
Okay. Sorry, I was going to reference it, but it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out if I know what you're talking about. I don't think I do.
Oh man. It's a clip, like a sketch show. It's really funny. Really funny sketch show. We burned through it in like a weekend because it was so funny.
Right.
But it's nothing. It doesn't matter. There's a scene where a guy is in a hot dog costume, smashes the wind. He a hot dog shaped car smashes into a shop, and all these people are like, we could have been killed. We have to call the cops. Who did this? Where's the driver? And then it pans over, and there's a guy in a full hot dog costume, and he's like, yeah, where's the driver? It's like clearly his car. And like all the people are like,
I've seen that.
Yeah, that's from that show. And then they ask him, they're like, you're dressed like a hot dog. And then he says, so is that guy. And then it cuts over to a guy who's just wearing like a beige suit with like a red shirt and like a yellow tie, and it really does look like he is in the exact same color scheme as the hot dog. And and the guy goes, oh no. It killed me, because this like unintentionally dressing up like something and then being called out for it is really funny. I don't know why. It's really, really funny.
Yeah.
The person just realizing fun. Like, oh no, I do look just like that break dancer.
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Well, we've been watching a really old show, but it's like it's just finally hit streaming. Like they released like 2 seasons on DVD and none of the others. But I used to watch it back in the day on Comedy Central, edited versions, because it originated on HBO. It's called Dream On. And the full episodes I've never gotten to see before, but it's all on the Roku channel right now for free. And it's like a lot of good people are in it, like Wendy Malick and shit. But it's just like a very dry comedy about like a newly divorced dad who is like navigating dating again, and he grew up on television, so like when things happen, it shows us little snippets of what's happening in his brain. Yeah. And it's just like old clips of movies and stuff that are humorous. We're really liking it.
Yeah. I remember when the show came on, I do remember like commercials for it. But
Michael McKean shows it, winds up on there.
Yeah. I'm seeing that in the IMDb or whatever. That's cool. I've never seen it, but I definitely remember it being on TV. or like seeing ads for it, but I didn't have HBO when I was a kid, so
yeah, it's good stuff.
That's cool. It obviously reminds me of Ally McBeal a little bit. That sort of is the brand of comedy, which later really inspired the brand of comedy in like Family Guy. Like
yes. It definitely is a real precursor to, well, The Simpsons were doing those cutaway gags before Family Guy was, and they stopped doing it when Family Guy started doing it.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like they've always done some cutaway gags, like, but I always feel interesting. I have to. I guess I don't remember The Simpsons doing that same kind of like pop culture cutaways. Like,
oh, they totally did, and like they even have, like, you can find interviews with the writers saying like, oh yeah, when Family Guy started doing it, we stopped immediately.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. It's interesting. Do you like Family Guy?
I like it enough. I don't watch it.
Yeah, I don't watch it either, and I never liked it. Like it was one of those that got really popular really fast, and people loved it, and so I'd go to like people's houses and they'd throw it on, and I was just like, it just didn't. It never really hit me. It never hit me as funny for whatever reason.
That's the thing, is like when I lived, like I would kind of watch it off and on, and then like when I lived with Jason, he would watch that and American Dad, and we started noticing that like when American Dad was really good for a season, Family Guy sucked. And then when Family Guy was good, American Dad sucked. And then like they all kind of started sucking when they were doing American Dad, Family Guy, and the Cleveland Show, because they were just stretched way too thin.
Right. Well, it sucks too, like when you have these comedians or whatever, and they just I feel this so much as a creative person, the inability to delegate well, or like find the right people and delegate well. Then I see people like Lorne Michaels, I feel like is the biggest example of this. I don't know that Lorne Michaels can write a comedy sketch to save his butt.
He can.
Can he? Okay, good.
Yeah, he's funny.
Like I know that he's funny. I've heard so many stories about him being funny, but I don't know what he's written. I couldn't tell you. Like, but he is a master at finding other people that are really funny and delegating this great show. And SNL, you can say it has its roller coaster moments, but like overall funny. But then the people that are on SNL that go on to do bigger things and write other shows. And Seth Meyers is one of my favorites. And now Seth Meyers, being on his show, has he has a production company that is like, they're making all these other shows, and it just like the sort of pyramiding out of people that not only are good at the thing, but can also like do a good job at choosing people who are good at the thing is really impressive to me.
Yeah, I think like I always enjoy like singular clips from Family Guy more than I actually enjoy the whole. Like when I watch the whole episode, I'm like, yeah, it was all right. But like there's usually like one or two clips in there that I was like, that was really funny. Yeah,
there's tons. Like, I mean, if I'm watching TikTok, a Family Guy clip will catch my attention here and there. But and it's funny because I really like other stuff that McFarlane has done. Orville being the main one. But like, I don't love the Family Guy that much. Okay, we gotta go. You got a hard out.
Yes, we do.
And I talked you directly up to it, so I'm gonna let you go. Joel and True,
live long and prosper.
Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.